As President Joe Biden prepared to head to Israel today, hundreds of people were killed at a hospital in Gaza City. Palestinian authorities say it was an Israeli airstrike that caused the carnage. The Israeli military says an errant rocket fired by Islamic Jihad militants was responsible. That militant group denies it. Thousands of Palestinians have been sheltering at the Al-Ahli hospital, along with wounded patients and medical personnel. According to a member of Doctors Without Borders who was working in the hospital, quote, "We were operating in the hospital. There was a strong explosion and the ceiling fell on the operating room. This is a massacre." Ayman Mohyeldin is the host of Ayman on MSNBC. He reported extensively from Gaza, particularly during the 2014 war, and he joins me now. It's good to have you here.
It's good to be here, Chris.
Obviously, this is just an awful, awful and horrible situation. The hospitals in Gaza tend to be locus of civilians precisely in hopes that there will be no bombing in those places. And obviously, there are also places that can't be easily evacuated.
Yeah, and this has been something that we've seen play out time and time again, where as a result of the evacuation orders that the Israelis gave, hospitals became de facto shelters. So not only are they treating the wounded as a result of the war, they are now also serving as a place where people felt that they can camp out and be safe for those that couldn't make it all the way to the south or below the certain line that the Israelis had told them to try to get below in the Gaza Strip. And we saw that at the Shifa Hospital. There are about 35,000 people that are sheltered there. This hospital had several thousand as well, not as many as Shifa, but this is a smaller hospital in the northern part of Gaza, who coincidentally a couple of days ago, when Israel told the northern part of the Gaza Strip to evacuate, they said, we can't evacuate. We have people on machines. We have people that physically we cannot take out of the situation that they're in medically. And so as a result, the hospital stayed open. It was operating under stress because of a shortage of fuel and electricity, backup generators. And so people naturally who couldn't make it south ended up in the courtyard of that hospital.
Yeah, and this is a Christian hospital. It's in the northern part. It's in that part that Israeli had instructed Palestinians to evacuate. Shifa hospitals in the south.
Exactly.
There's tens
a little
of
bit south,
there.
Not all the way in the south,
Right.
but a little bit south. Yeah, in Gaza City.
Now, we do not know what happened here.
Right.
The Israeli Defense Forces say it was essentially an errant rocket from Islamic Jihad. Not that they were firing at their own hospital, but essentially they tried to fire. It fell. The Palestinian Health Ministry, I think Hamas and Islamic Jihad all say it was the Israeli Defense Forces. Right. What we do know, though, is the news and the images that people have seen in the region are hundreds of people bleeding and dead in a hospital, and that has had enormous consequences.
The image of the hospital officials, they held a press conference amidst the bodies of those that had died, was one of the most jarring things I have ever seen. They wanted the bodies there because they knew, regardless of who is responsible, these innocent people are killed as a result of this war. And to your point, it did not take long for those images to have a ripple effect. We have now seen protests in Jordan outside the Israeli embassy. We've seen protests in Turkey, in Lebanon, in Egypt. And I can assure you that tomorrow morning, as more of this news spreads and more of these images spread, it is going to complicate the diplomatic efforts that are underway. And I think it puts the governments in the region in very dangerous positions. These are not, by the way, not democratic governments. Let's be very clear about that. These are authoritarian governments that are sometimes they use force to suppress any kind of dissent or any kind of street protest. But when it comes to this issue, these protests mobilize masses in places like Jordan, where the population is 60 to 70% descendants of Palestinians, in a place like Egypt that is very emotionally attached to the Palestinian cause. So you can expect that in the coming days, these leaders of these countries and elsewhere are going to feel the pressure of what happened today in Gaza in their own capitals.
We should also just say here, and this is, I think, important, is, again, independent of what happened here, which we just do not know, and I suspect there will be a protracted conversation between U.S. officials and Israeli officials. Independent of the hospital, as of, I think, 4 or 5 days ago, the Israeli Defense Forces said they dropped about 6,000 bombs on Gaza. You know, Raqqa, which is the capital of the Islamic State, when it was being taken, had 4,000 bombs dropped on it, I think, in a month. There is just no way this level of air bombardment is not going to result in many civilian casualties, independent of this hospital strike.
Yeah, I mean, when you're looking at the images, and again, we have to emphasize this, we don't have our own reporters on the ground to see this. So what we are relying on are the accounts of other journalists, credible organizations, news organizations that have people there. And what you can see we're not talking about a building destroyed. We're talking about whole neighborhoods destroyed. We're talking about multiple buildings being destroyed. And one of the most complicated things in covering a war like this is that in many of these residential areas, the Israeli government would take the position we're using precision weapons, we're using, very guided munitions to hit specific targets. That has not been the case, according to the Israelis, as a result in this particular war. And so what we're seeing is that even in a residential neighborhood, if you're living in a building, if you're on a certain floor, but the floor below it has something that the Israelis want to target, and if you're not there or you don't get the notice to evacuate, you become a civilian casualty as a war. Now, they've obviously been dropping the pamphlets. They've been making these phone calls. They have given the orders to evacuate. But for some, it's just simply not enough. People are not mobile. People can't get out of out of harm's way. And when you're doing this kind of wholesale destruction of neighborhoods and buildings, you can understand how it's impossible for some of these civilians to get out of harm's way.
Yeah, according to the health ministry in Gaza, I think it's over 1,500 or 2,000 as of now. It's hard to keep track of. They keep mounting. Ayman Mohyeldin, thank you very much.